Hello, welcome to Planetary Evolution, a space to discuss our path to peace and consciousness. I'm your host, Jared Angaza. I want to talk about activism. Activism makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable. I get it. I understand. It's not always the favorite thing to talk about at a dinner party. But I do think that there's a time and a space for it, obviously. I'm an activist. And I've spent a lot of years being in situations where people feel that my activism is uncomfortable. It's something that makes them feel uncomfortable, and I have to ask why. So what is an activist, first of all? An activist, in my opinion, is someone that is activating something. They're activating a thought, an idea. They're saying, this is something I care about, and I'm going to make sure that I amplify a certain ethos. And in my case, it's peace. It's saying, okay, I want more peace. I want racial equality, economic equality, and so on. So I'm an activist. I'm going out and I'm saying, look, there are efforts being put forth. There is a Black Lives Matter effort being put forth right now, which is arguably kind of the second wave, or at least another wave, of the civil rights movement. That is important to me, and I want to be part of activating that, making it come into fruition. And ultimately, the goal there is peace. The goal there is racial equality. That seems relevant to me. That seems important to me. That seems like something that's important to put my time into, to be part of. Whether it means I'm just being a vessel of love and acceptance to those around me, which I think is the first most important thing, or if it means that I am going to rallies and I'm posting things on social networks and things like that. It doesn't mean you have to be negative. Being an activist is so often associated with this negative behavior. Like he's an activist. Don't go near that guy. Don't invite him to the party. He's going to be a downer. Why on earth is that a fact? Why is that the situation? Think about it like this. If you think about Gandhi, we can look at Gandhi and say, okay, this is an amazing man. He did amazing things. He went through torture. He went through imprisonment. He went through fasting and starvation, ultimately. For long periods of time. He endured many things. Mandela, 27 years of prison, and so on. All of these things, we can see these guys went through tumultuous times. They suffered, and certainly we can talk about Martin Luther King. I mean, ultimately, I'm always going to end up there anyway, so let's just go into it. So Martin Luther King, all of these guys were oppressed. They went through terrible things. They suffered immensely to prove a point, but they did it because there were terrible things going on. There were bad environments, bad situations. And let's just stick with the civil rights movement. There was outrageous levels of racism playing out in many, many different facets in society. Martin Luther King and many others came together and created the civil rights movement and said, we are going to put an end to this, or at least begin the process. One can certainly argue that we're still in that process now. But they tipped the scale. So in that, we can look back and we can say, oh man, I love Martin Luther King's letters from prison. They're amazing, they're profound. I love all the quotes from Martin Luther King, and I want to post them on Facebook and talk about them at dinner parties and whatever. Because of these profound moments, or his profound ability to capture a moment and to articulate it so eloquently, the essence of that moment. It's easy to look at that, and now that he has transitioned into formlessness, if you will, and is no longer a threat, we don't get upset with his methodologies. Now, we can look back at that and say, his philosophies were great, things that he wrote and said were great. But in the midst of that, there were people saying, Martin, you're really making the dinner party uncomfortable. Martin, do you really have to do this? Do you really have to bring that conversation in with you? And at some certain level, when he became so notably connected to the civil rights movement, he brought that in the room just by being. He was just there, and everyone knew what was going on, knew what they were going to get into. My feeling is that people like the idea of peace. They like the idea of bringing, everyone coming together and one love and all that kind of stuff. They like the idea of the civil rights movement because that was back then. But when you talk about Black Lives Matter, people are like, whoa, that's in your face, that's offensive, it's violent, there's bad stuff going on there, and I don't want that on my Facebook wall. I don't want that in my conversation. My feeling, though, is that this violence, this racism, this stuff, all these things these inequalities of many different ways, we as middle class, especially white America, tends to say, okay, well, that stuff that's happening out there, I'm just here in suburbia, everything's fine. This stuff is like cancer, and it's spreading everywhere. And we're getting to the point now where it's a lot more difficult to ignore it. It's showing up in, regular old elementary schools and lots of cities. We won't go into the names of all the places we've had mass shootings and all the other things that have happened. There is a dynamic that is real, that is coming into everyone's world, and energetically it affects everyone's world anyway. We are interconnected, period. It's happening. One man's suffering is going to affect the rest of us in some way. That's more of an energetic discussion of consciousness. Just getting down to plain social justice, my feeling is why? Why does this make you feel uncomfortable? Why does activism, why does me being an activist make you feel more uncomfortable than the rampant rate of racism in this country? Why does all of the maladies of the world that we talk about, with the economic inequality and the racial inequality, institutionalized racism, and the police violence that we're seeing that is at an all-time high, all of these things are happening right now, yet that doesn't bother us as much as the activist that comes into the room or the post on Facebook, and oh, that's just whatever. Now, I think that a really good way to bring this home is to talk about this video that Alicia Keys just released. My wife and I watched it last night. It's called 23 Ways, and it's about all the ways that that different Black folks have died recently because of police shootings. Whether or not they got pulled over for a broken taillight, in the case of Philandro, or for a license plate issue, or a headlight being out, or not turning a turn signal on, or just walking down the street, or approaching someone too fast, or whatever. There's fear, so much fear built into the psyche of Americans at this point that says, a Black man's coming at me, something wrong must be about to happen. I saw some video on this morning, some guy that was just on his phone, and he was talking or whatever, and he was walking towards some older white lady, and he got closer to her and looked up, and she yelled, attack, attack, rape, help me, help me, help me. I mean, it's not his fault. He did nothing, but she has been programmed to such a degree that is her first response. That's a problem. That in and of itself is a problem. Even if it never erupted in violence, that in and of itself is a problem. With this video that Alicia put out, it has all our favorite celebrities, Black and white, coming out and saying, these are ways that people can die as a Black person. Trivial, stupid ways that people are dying. She's making a point that this is absurd, this is ridiculous, and we should do something about it. I would add to that there is a very long history that has programmed people and created social agreements and social systems that has resulted in that type of behavior, where we have cops that are going out and shooting rampantly, especially in the Black community and other minorities, because they fear those people. Now, I don't say that that's a problem with police. It's not a problem with Black people. It's a problem with a general perspective in our country that fosters these beliefs and these truths. But it's a perspective problem. It's a perspective rooted in fear. I've talked about that many times, and we'll continue to talk about that. My feeling is this, that if something like what Alicia put together, if watching that reel, if that makes you uncomfortable, if that makes you feel like, maybe I don't want to listen to Alicia anymore now, maybe that turns me off as a white, moderate, American, I'll leave the religious discussion out of this. But if that offends you, if that says, now she's stepped over into territory that I don't agree with, my question is why? if she writes a song about, and I'm using her as an example, it could be anyone, but if she writes a song about unity and the importance of oneness and togetherness and working together and it's all happy or whatever, everybody can look at that and say, that's a wonderful thing. That's something that we're excited about. Let's play that. Let's get that on the radio in the car for the fam. But if she comes back and tells you what was the impetus for her thinking that led her to writing that song, because of the rampant racism and what it's doing to Black Americans and what it's doing now, even to white America and so on, and how it's affecting us as a society, the negative aspects that are happening because of that fear that's being driven through your brains, through the media and the government and the corporations and everything else. Why can't she talk about that? Why can't she talk about why she did it? So my question is, why does it make you uncomfortable? Why doesn't it make you more uncomfortable that all these things are going on, the racism and the economic inequality and violence of all kinds and the lust for guns that this country has? Why don't those things bother you more than me or anyone else being an activist or posting something on Facebook? Why are you not willing to engage in that conversation? I don't understand why those things don't bother people more. So my question is, if activism rather bothers you, my question is this: do you really want peace? Do you believe that it's possible? Do you really believe that there's a racism issue to the level in which I speak that exists in America? Most people don't, especially in middle white America. Do you believe gun violence is a problem? A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't even believe in climate change. Amazing. Do you really not believe it? That's one thing to talk about. Do you choose to say you don't believe it because it would then inform you of some sort of responsibility that you might have to change it, and you don't want that kind of responsibility? You want to do your thing, you want to remain comfortable, and so on. Why does it feel comfortable to you to appreciate MLK now, but not someone that's involved with the Black Lives Matter movement now? What's the difference? Why is it okay to do it, in this case, posthumously with MLK, rather than presently with people that are continuing that philosophy through nonviolent, peaceful activism and protest and resistance and so on? I don't understand the difference, I guess. And I think it's important to ask those questions. Why do these things make you cringe? Why does the video from Alicia make you cringe? Why doesn't it make you excited that the most influential people in the world are celebrities? Society has always been led by celebrity. Why don't we get more excited that they're stepping out and saying something? The Jesse Williams speech the other day, BET Awards, that was powerful. It's lots of controversy coming at him. But he came out and he said something that was real. I think that's important. We need to foster more of that. We need to praise that more rather than criticize it and say, yes, use your platform for good. That is important. So these things should make us excited, I think, rather than uncomfortable. I feel like when these things come across and say I post this on Facebook, I have plenty of friends and whatever that would look at that and say, I don't feel comfortable sharing that. I wish Jared wouldn't have shared that and so on. And I have to ask why. Why is it more important to you to not disrupt the comfort level in the room at the moment than to talk about issues that actually matter? I'm not saying you have to do it everywhere all the time or whatever. I get that there's a time and a place for it. 38 years old. I've been doing this for a long time, and I know when not to bring it up. Fair enough. But if you really believe that peace is possible, and you really want it to happen, stand up for it. Be a vessel of love and acceptance, first of all, in your life and in your, throughout your family and friends and so on. And don't shy away from conversations when these things come up. Don't shy away from Black Lives Matter movement. It's real, it's needed, it's important. And if you are not a racist and you believe in peace and believe that it is possible and worth striving for, engage. Engage in the process. If nothing else, just try not to lambaste the people that are engaging in the conversation and in the initiatives to curb that kind of behavior. If there was some, charity asking for money for an orphanage, you may be inclined to give money. It's a good cause, whatever. My feeling is that activism in general, and in this case, what I'm getting at with the Black Lives Matter movement, I say, why not get engaged just as much? This is right here in your own front yard. Get engaged. It's for a good cause called humanity. And if somebody's suffering over there, I'm not going to feel comfortable until I feel that I've done something to help ease that pain a bit. It could be anything. It could be a hug, a handshake, a nice, glance in their direction, a smile, whatever. At the end of the day, my point here is about activism. If activism makes you feel uncomfortable, I would challenge you to ask yourself, why does that make you feel uncomfortable? And ultimately, why does it make you feel more uncomfortable than whatever that person has set out to correct or combat? Why doesn't that thing make you more uncomfortable than them talking about it? I hope you're thriving, and I wish you strength and peace.